Hello everyone, I'm Giulio Coraggio from DLA Piper.
And I'm Antonio Ravenna, a journalist.
We're here to talk about the implementation in Italy of NIS 2, where we are at the moment.
And we're going to make it during the time of a coffee break. So, Giulio, let's talk about the implementation of the NIS 2 directive. Where are we?
Well, Antonio, it's kind of interesting where we are because it's one of the situations where Italy was among the fastest implementators of NIS 2. And even in this situation was criticized because we were much faster than France, Germany, all the big countries across Europe, because the legislation came into place more than a year ago. And then we already have the first year registration with the Cybersecurity Authority. We have already in place the provisions on the notification of incidents under NIS 2 that became applicable from January of this year. So companies, if they suffer an incident, already need to report to ACM, the Italian Cybersecurity Authority, an incident. They already need to have in place a policy in order to assess incidents. But then we have other approaching deadlines, and we have the Cybersecurity Authority that is generating so much volume of documentation on obligations that need to be fulfilled.
So what companies should do and should know actually about the NIS 2 implementation?
Well, first of all, they need to understand whether they are in and out, which after a year seems a given, but it's not, because we still have clients that tell us, am I within the perimeter of NIS 2? Then also the fact that DORA became applicable during the same period, there is lots of confusion on what is covered by DORA and what is left out and might be covered by NIS 2. So first of all, you need to understand whether you are within the perimeter. Secondly, you need to understand in relation to which services we are within the perimeter NIS 2. And it's relevant that the Italian Cybersecurity Authority required very recently a categorization of services that the company provides within the NIS 2 perimeter. So basically, it's not just a one-off exercise. Then you need to map all your services and understand what is covered by each category of NIS 2 services. So it's a mapping exercise that needs to be done on a yearly basis, and it's really time-consuming because it requires to analyze your actual operations.
So, Giulio, you mentioned the DORA regulation. So, once again, there's a lot of stratification within Europe regulations. Do the digital omnibus actually have any impact also in the NIS 2 directive?
The provisions that have been agreed introduce some minor changes. There is an attempt by the European Union to create some kind of harmonization across NIS 2 as well, because what we've been noticing over the last months is that NIS 2 is a directive and it was implemented quite differently across the European Union. The one-stop shop principle applies in very limited circumstances when there are digital services, and then the requirements and the guidelines from local cybersecurity authorities are often inconsistent. So having a pan-European approach to NIS 2 in some cases is not feasible. It requires to put on the ground different documents. It requires to give evidence to authorities in a different manner.
So let's be practical as always. I have a company. What should I do, I don't know, in the next 3 months?
First of all, if you are not sure whether you are in and out or in relation to which services you are in and out, you need to do a NIS 2 assessment exercise on your services. Secondly, if you reach the conclusion that you are in, then you need to understand which services are covered and then put on the ground the policies that shouldn't be just some additional paper, but they should be embedded in the actual operations. Let's bear in mind that NIS 2 is one of the limited legislation that in some countries like Italy provides for a direct liability of board members, which is in line with the DNA of the NIS 2 that wants to create a higher level of accountability of the top management in relation to cybersecurity compliance.
Thank you, Giulio. This was very clear and very useful as always.
Thank you, Antonio. I hope it helps. Arrivederci.